Good evening, Dharma brothers and sisters. Welcome to a new term of Rongton Buddhist Training College, Tuesday evening philosophy classes. We have a good half a dozen or so people here live at Holder in Canberra, as well as a good, looks like about 25 people attending via Zoom. This term, which is the third of 2021, we are continuing our study of Rongton's Perfection of Wisdom. The perfection of wisdom is a very important genre of literature in Mahayana Buddhism. In Sanskrit, it's called Prajna Paramita. Rongton himself is a historical teacher in Tibet, an accomplished scholar and practitioner, to which we have a very close connection, to the extent that this very college is named after him, Rongton Buddhist Training College. As there may be some new faces here tonight, I'd like to introduce you all to our founder, spiritual director and teacher, Lama Choedak Rinpoche. Rinpoche was born into a family of nomads in Old Tibet, and his family was forced to flee into exile when he was still very young. He studied and practiced as a monk under some of Tibetan Buddhism's most eminent masters in India and Nepal, which culminated in him completing a 3.5-year solitary meditation retreat, earning him the title Lama. He later went on to earn the title Rinpoche, meaning High Lama, in recognition of his translation work into English and his expertise in transmitting traditional Buddhist teachings to contemporary audiences such as ourselves. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the generous benefactors of this course who have helped to make these teachings free of charge to all. And also a big thanks to our technical support team as well as our committee, who all work very hard in helping to make these teachings available for all of us. So I'll leave it with Rinpoche, who will begin the prayers with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome, and while zooming to this continuation of teachings on the perfection of wisdom. We had a recess on June 15th. We had a break. Maybe a bit long break. We make a habit of doing 8-week terms, so that's why it's not as long as school terms. So anyway, good to continue with the familiar company of all the people who are here, who are zooming in, giving their time, and to be with everyone, familiar faces and Sangha. And we rejoice everybody's commitment and discipline, and to be able to listen and pay heed, not only when you're listening, but listening to the teachings and try to employ those teachings to show us how we will learn to negotiate the complexity of life's challenges, whatever they may be, because all the challenges are the very causes of perfecting or improving. I think perfecting is a little bit premature. I think improving the trainings. So this masterpiece by Rongton is definitely a very special writing that I have discovered, and so we've been going through it and slowly in the teachings, as well as we have sent you the actually draft translation of the text we have covered so far. So we will do the same at the end of the 8-week course. This one, we will email you the actual text to you. So I hope you are all listening and taking notes and then comparing with the actual text when you see them. So this way you are actually studiously learning and studying and then comparing the notes. So we will begin as usual first with a prayer to reconnect and renew our refuge in the Triple Gem, and then Triple Gem, refuge in the Triple Gem means we are doing the affirmation of how much the teaching is a refuge and a solace and guide and best friend, I suppose, best find, I suppose, best wealth, best vehicle to have. So we renew our appreciation of that, that is connected with the Buddha gem and the Dharma gem and the Sangha gem. So we renew that as we do the refuge prayer, and then we generate the motivation in listening and discussing these teachings with a very far-sighted vision for the benefit of not me, not benefit of this body or this life, but benefit of all sentient beings, benefit of future, benefit of the mind stream, so that we are able to reconstitute our mind that often is losing to anger and irritation and sadness and poor me mentalities. So therefore we have very good reason to reiterate to the mind what these teachings are, the best we can give as gifts. This gifts requires listening. And not only that, this gifts requires good comprehension, good understanding. So much so, it can correct the wrong views that we have held so long without noticing they are wrong views, wrong opinions, wrong perceptions, and therefore wrong choices or reactions we made. So this teaching will teach us not to take those wrong impulses and reactions, and instead allow ourselves to discover something new, constructive. This is what means teaching. Teaching is like finding the light, showing the way. Buddha says it's the teaching that is his best gift. Because this teaching is everlasting there. Teaching is eternal, the truth, it's truth. Four Noble Truth is always truth, It will always remain truth. And there's no time they become expiring, So more severe the sufferings and problems people have, more truer the teachings will become. And those who are renewing their refuge are doing that very reason, that how true the teachings are. And if we employ the teachings, it's even more rewarding than merely intellectually rejoicing their truthfulness intellectually. Intellectual stimulation of Buddhist teaching is already attracting fair number of people who are not religious minded. But emotional stimulation and growth that the teaching gives is even more. And the spiritual stimulation of finding people themselves as a follower of Buddha Dharma, we are not saying you should feel the census on couple of weeks time saying you are Buddhist. We are not saying you should, but you might identify yourself as one. Once you have comprehended the usefulness of how Dharma it is, the teaching and practice of altruism. So therefore we renew our altruism, commitment to practice altruism, never give up on any one sentient being. And that is Bodhichitta. Bodhichitta is too much to give up even one sentient being. One sentient being is too many, So it is with those difficult sentient beings we have to practice bodhicitta. That's the perfection of wisdom. We have to improve our kindness with them. So with this in mind, we will now do the refuge and 4 immeasurables, 3 times each. Join your hands at the heart. I will this time say these prayers in Tibetan, and you can, all of you know the prayers. I believe you all have. So I will let you two say, because I can't hear anybody saying anyway. So I might as well say in Tibetan. But I know you're all there, deep in your heart. You're really truly presently saying those prayers. Commitment to practice kindness to all people and compassion to all difficult situations, and joy when you can do this. Most long-lasting cause of joy is when you practice loving kindness, when you practice compassion instead of being righteous, being aggressive and reactive and that kind of thing. That's why His Holiness Dalai Lama says, my religion is kindness. So often we forget kindness, we become righteous, become very, 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 very righteous mind, very impatient, very vindictive over small things, over difficult sentient beings' choices. And we have to be very careful with that. It's not forgetting kindness is probably highest perfection of wisdom. Highest perfection of wisdom, not forgetting kindness. So it's a reminder of those these prayers we say. Zanje chodan zoje jonan la janjo bardo dane jazoje dage jenzoje be zonanje rola benje zanje roba jo sanje chodan zoje jonan la janjo bardo dane jazoje dage jenzoje be zonanje Rola benje zanje roba jo sanje jodan zoje jona chanju bardo dane jazunje dage jinzo jebe zonamje Rola benje zanje roba jo semje damje dewat deve judan dembara juje donga je judan rawara juje donga mebe dewa da midra wara jurji nyeren chada dan drave danyamla nebara joroje semje damje dewa da deve juda dembara juje donga je juda rawara juje donga mebe dewa da midra wara jurji nyeren chada dan drave danyamla nebara jurji semje damje dewa deve juda dembara jurji donga je juda rawara jurji donga mebe dewa da midra wara jurji nyeren chada dan drave danyamla nebara jurji semje namje zambada loye jeda chejun dumo endebai chejun golo gordo zo. So once again, thank you everybody for giving your attention, and even with more good altruistic intention with which you listen and hear the teachings where you can apply in certain areas of life's choices and difficulties, then you will really find the hearing of the teachings. When Buddha gave the teachings, disciples heard the teachings so much so they couldn't forget every word. And then they said, "Thus I have heard." That means they not only heard word for word, but they realized how true the teachings are. And how true the teachings are, particularly when they apply them, how to apply them. When the Ananda said, "Thus I have heard," he's actually verifying. He's actually endorsing how true the teachings have been and are and will be, so long as everybody pay heed to it. So that's why we have the great we did just one verse requesting the teachings, and you might say, "Oh, you are giving the request to me to give the teaching." It's completely opposite. That's not the true at all. How about me when I'm saying that? When I'm saying this with you, I'm requesting the teachings to come through this exercise that I'm doing and give time and attention you're giving. How much of the value of the teaching increases when there is this kind of fellowship and interaction, and the Dharma get boosted and fostered by this kind of Sangha activities. In the old days, Sangha activities existed only if the Sangha came together once a fortnight at the minimum, either as the monastics or lay people. And if possible, they may do a bit more frequently, but at least minimum they used to do at least a fortnightly in the old traditions. So of course we have become much more educated society in the last 2 centuries, and people always studying something. People always doing. They are in their 70s, but they're still going back to universities. They're learning. They are trying to upskill themselves, learning different things. Dharma is never too old for people to listen to, learn to. You can never hear it too many times. That thing you think, "Oh, I've heard that before." Can they not talk about something else? The truthfulness of Dharma is such. So, having said that, now we go back to the text which we started. In the last 2 terms, we covered the very important topic of the importance of faith and devotion, because people have this strange idea that Buddhism, you don't need any faith. You just need a rational mind, as you have amazing apt mind that you can rationalize everything without needing any faith. So this is missing. Quite a lot of people are missing the point that Buddhism is not a spiritual tradition, that it doesn't need faith. And in the Perfection Wisdom, we heard that faith is the most important thing. Without without faith, you can't find refuge. You will always be an onlooker on the fence and never be the actual practitioner of the Dharma. Of course, most of you, we know each other for so many years. Of course, we are not like that. We already have faith in the Dharma. But we know that in this volatile time, people lose their faith in the Dharma, and by judging at the people and the traditions and schools and so on. And that shows that the Dharma has to be the one to which you need to develop faith. If you rely on non-Dharma as Dharma, of course you will be deceived. Because if you have faith in the Dharma, it will never let you down. It will never let you down, because Dharma has to be realized by yourself. Dharma has to be realized by ourselves, not by someone else's impression or someone else's kind of stature or standing in society or whatever, So people are often worshipping people, and that's not Dharma. People are worshipping schools and tradition. That's not Dharma. People should be taking refuge in the true realization of the truthfulness of Dharma through their own listening, contemplation, and implementation and practice in their life. Then the faith will not be wavered, but faith will be strengthened in times of crises, in times of difficulties. The faith becomes even more stronger. Then your faith becomes really, really encouraged in times of crisis. So for Buddhism and its teachings to make great footing in anywhere in the world, you will see that Buddhism in those Asian countries, it took 300-400 years before it took true root in those cultures, particularly in Tibet, where I come from, because they had their own religion and so on. But once it took root, what is making the Buddhism so strong in Tibetan psyche is because of the faith and devotion they give to the teachings and practices. And anyone who's associated with that, people have a certain way how to develop their own sense of dignity in not letting themselves to lose their faith in the teachings. So that was amply emphasized, at least in the first 5 sessions of the term number 1. I think that's what covered, isn't it? And then we moved on to the actual body of the text. The very instruction of perfection of wisdom is divided into 10 chapters, and the actual instructions. And of that, first is the generation of the Bodhichitta and understanding of the 10 paramitas. And so we have been going over that over 1.5 terms. It's talking about what constitute bodhicitta, and what are the precepts of the bodhicitta, and how those bodhicitta should be implemented in what we call practicing the bodhicitta with the use of the 22 analogies, as it is said in the Maitreya's Abhisamaya Alankara, which is the beautiful ornament of the clear realization of the perfection wisdom root text. In that root text, it gives in a couple of verses the 22 analogies. So we went through the analogies, and these 22 analogies are divided into what we call enlightenment thought, the armored enlightenment thought as the intention of enlightenment thought, and then as engaged enlightenment thought. The armored enlightenment took the first 3 analogies, earth and gold and moon, as the intention of the bodhicitta. The base of the bodhicitta should be very solid, like earth. We should not give up bodhicitta. Remember the earth. That earth is stable foundation of all things animate, inanimate in this world. Likewise, bodhicitta is the stable foundation of all Mahayana Buddhist practices. So therefore, we must not forget the wishing bodhicitta with the earth-like strong foundation, strong good intention. And the quality of the intention which we employ, the armoredness of the bodhicitta, is that it should have the gold-like quality of gold as a metal, unlike the iron or aluminium or others which rust. And whereas gold, no matter how much you burn, no matter how much you rub or smelt, whatever you do, the gold never lose its quality. Likewise, you never give up bodhicitta. Your quality of bodhicitta must always be golden. Even in Olympics, they give gold as a present. It's gold. They fight to get the gold. Those who get the gold are very few. Those who return home empty-handed, many. But remember, you are having this Olympic gold medal if you conceive bodhicitta. If you conceive bodhicitta and you don't give up bodhicitta on any difficult situations and practice that, no matter how difficult challenges you face, but not give up on that, that's the gold medal. That's a true gold medal. And this still we're talking about intention, yeah. And third armoredness of this, that not only your quality of sincerity is like gold-like, but your stamina, your dedication to practice bodhicitta is waxing like the moon. So it is waxing. It is year after year. You are not losing your faith in the Dharma or in the Bodhichitta. You're increasing your faith in the Bodhichitta. However feeble sometimes you discover your own practices might be, but the teaching's veracity and its truthfulness is not questionable. It is always, its teaching never fails. People can fail due to their karma and affliction. Who is among the people who doesn't have karma and affliction? So next time you see somebody who blunders, who makes mistake, you will wax your bodhicitta to them even more, because here's another sentient being, just like myself, for instance. And instead of throwing stones at them, judging at them, or being angry at them, you will wax your bodhicitta motivation. So these are the first three analogies, which is the analogy of the armored bodhicitta. Armored bodhicitta is intention. Bodhicitta has two types, wishing bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. So wishing bodhicitta has these three analogies. Really, Mahayanas should remember these three analogies to remember what wishing bodhicitta should be like. And then next is engaging bodhicitta. Engaging bodhicitta is usually 6 parameters, but the manner in which you engage your practice of the parameters should be like fire. The fourth analogy, the fire. Fire burns everything. Combustible materials, of course, even uncombustible materials, fire would have a go at it. It will never, it will burn everything, when there's a fire, you can see how many things get incinerated. Likewise, your engaged bodhicitta will incinerate your laziness, your miserliness, your impatience, whatever the antithesis of each of the 6 parameters are. That is the example of the fourth example of the fire. Then, so that takes care of the first 4 analogies with the wishing bodhicitta and general analogy of engaging bodhicitta. Then you have 18 remaining examples. 18 remaining examples, we discuss the 10 parameters. The 10 parameters are called engage enlightenment thought themselves. Engage enlightenment thought themselves. We discuss the perfection of generosity. That is represented by mind or treasure. And then we talked about perfection of discipline. That is represented by a gem. And then we talked about tolerance, which is represented by the ocean, and diligence by diamond, and meditation by mountain, and the wisdom by medicine. So that took care of the first 6 parameters. And then we talked about the 4 remaining parameters, because we discussed 10 parameters. 6 parameters normally, generosity all the way to wisdom. Then on top of that, there are 4 additional parameters. These 4 additional parameters are firstly skillfulness, represented by spiritual friend, 11th example, and then this 8th one is the power, bala parameter. That's the power, represented by wish fulfilling gem. And then the aspiration, the pranidhana parameter, that's the 9th parameter, is represented by the sun. And then the last one is transcendental wisdom, primordial wisdom, the 10th parameter, by songs or music, songs. So with this we completed last on the 15th of June. I think that was our last session. I had a quick watch of the YouTube myself this afternoon just to make sure where we finished. So we finished with those first 14 examples. So that leaves us 8 more analogies. So these 8 more analogies are called subsequent enlightenment thought analogies. So this is the 3rd section. So that's what we are coming to tonight. We are starting with that. Subsequent enlightenment thought means that these 10 parameters you have, which has only 8 more analogies left, you now use the same 10 parameters as a subsequent, because there are for 8 additional example analogies are there to highlight further meanings of the application of the 10 parameters. So that's what we're going to go over. Subsequent enlightenment thought. So subsequent enlightenment thought means the result of the concordant perfection of generosity. Now, if you practice generosity, there is a concordant effect. There is a habit. That person who practices generosity is now king. So the 15th analogy is a king. When you practice generosity, when you're generous, people will treat you as you are the king. you are the benefactor. Like Anathapindika's name. Anathapindika's name in Buddhist history he's like the most generous sponsor of the dharma during Buddha's time was Anathapindika. There were many others, by the way, but Anathapindika was the protector of the unprotected. Anatha meaning those who are unprotected. Pindika means he gives them food, he feeds them, he gives them clothes, and so basically he's the one who goes around whoever needs, he goes and gives these things. So Anathapindika not only become Arhat, but he's become exemplary. Like he's the king, because he managed to become king of being wealthy, because he gave what he had, but he didn't keep anything for himself. So he's truly the king of wealth. The king of wealth is one who can give to others, to empower them, to feed them, to educate them, to give them directions they don't have. That's the best use of wealth. So that's why generosity, the subsequent analogy of this generosity is king. Then you have the merit of having had material wealth, because you have empowered so many people. Like the Bills, is it Bill? Bill Gates. Bill Gates. Yeah. Every time I look at those people who have amazing. Basically he's the president of all the people because he has the wealth. But not only he has the wealth, but he benefits many people. So that's just maybe not so agreeable to some people, because it doesn't matter. Some people probably didn't also agree being Anathapindika being so favored by because there's always some people love but others hate. It's quite the world. You can never find everybody agreeing. So that's the subsequent analogy of generosity is the king. Just as king is victorious in the war with the enemy, person who's generous is victorious over the enemy of greed, miserliness, stinginess, and being enslaved by greediness. He is no longer slave to his possessions, but he is now master. He's the king of what he has. He has power to give, because but people who couldn't conquer the enemy of miserliness, they are controlled by the miserliness. They couldn't dare to eat, drink, use even for themselves. So they become real prisoners. But the king is the one who can give impunity and set the prisoners free, isn't it? So one who's generous is actually one who free himself or herself from the likelihood of future suffering of being born as a hungry ghost and so on, because he is true king. So the example number 15 is, that's why I call subsequent analogy of the first paramita. Good. Likewise, the result of the concordant perfection of self-discipline, concordant perfection, because this means subsequent. So what is the subsequent? Result means subsequent, yeah? Subsequent concordant perfection of self-discipline is like the treasure house. So like the treasure house is the second meaning, subsequent analogy. Meaning person who is self-disciplined is like a source of wealth, source of wisdom, compassion, and good, noble example that others could emulate. Like the Buddha. Like the Buddha's immeasurable quality of Shila Paramita is because we have this amazing devotion. Why we have all this unquestionable devotion to Buddha? Because Buddha is the standing, everlasting treasure house. By using, the Buddha never loses his treasure of merit by even his passing away. Quite a lot of the great practitioners, when they pass away, their respectability increases more than when they're alive. Why? Because the treasure never loses, depletes its wealth, but it actually becomes more source of happiness for everyone, like a treasure house. So that's why moral discipline of anyone who practices moral discipline, they will find amazing riches and benefits that they never knew it's going to come from their self-discipline. So that's the subsequent example. Why? Just as the treasure house is the source of many kinds of wealth and the riches, the treasure house of the three types of self-discipline is the source of many antidotes to affliction. The three types of self-discipline is firstly prohibitive self-discipline, prescriptive self-discipline, and a benevolent self-discipline. Prohibitive means one restrains from doing certain things that are not good, and prescriptive means those that one does is meritorious and wholesome. And benevolent means not just one is doing because they're wholesome, but it has amazing benefit to others because of the benevolentness of it. So that's why the treasure house is the subsequent analogy, which is the 16th analogy. Now the 17th analogy is the concordant quality of perfection of patience. That analogy is highway, yeah. Highway is you have many highways in the West, Just as the highway supports all kinds of vehicles, whether it's a tricycle, whether it's a bicycle, whether someone is going skating, whether it's a 2-ton truck, whether it's a Mini or the Mercedes-Benz or limousine or whatever vehicle, the highway does not discriminate who comes on the road. Likewise, person who practices patience is one who is patient. Just as the highway supports all the kind of vehicles, Likewise, person who practices patience with the good people, evil people, mediocre people, all whatever sentient beings are like, friends, neutral, whether strangers, as well as foes, as well as arch-rival foes, with them they will practice those 3 types of patience, which we discussed already. I don't need to repeat all of them. So therefore, he is able to endure the hardships of whatever, whether it's physical illness or whatever it is. Whether you have to stay up so late, whether you have to do many times again and again, you never whinge, you never complain, but do them graciously, like the highway. Whether a very old truck which is exhaust pipe is throwing more gas than any, makes a lot of noise, dripping the diesel or not, but highway doesn't say, oh, you go away out of my road, you're dripping too many oils on my road. They don't do that. Highway is so patient, allow everybody to drive on it. Likewise, the Mahayana practitioner who has conceived the right bodhicitta and employs his bodhicitta, he never complains when someone is very hard on him. He actually says, this is the real person and the difficulties I must conquer my impatience with. And therefore he emulates the highway. He emulates the highway. Yeah, highway. You can remember Bruce Highway. Okay, Bruce Highway is the bodhicitta. Very good. Okay, if you can't remember bodhicitta, think of Bruce Highway. Think of Monaro Highway. Think of Federal Highway. Think of, I don't know, Australia got so many highways, and they're really good. You wouldn't believe how broad they are. Even the amazing trucks comes, no problem. 20 trucks come this way, 30 trucks went that way, still no sign. The road is still built to last. So your patience should be built to last with any sentient being, without any qualms. That is what we call subsequent enlightenment thought. So not only you forbear the hardships, but you never complain in the afternoon. There is so hard morning. I'm glad I got a break now. And the road never says I need a break, road is so selfless. Road is so selfless, Road is so selfless. That's why we call vehicle. We call Ashtamarga. Marga means path. The Dharma is the path. Your path is so selfless, and we need to emulate the analogy of the practice of the that. So that's the subsequent example of the patience. And then subsequent analogy of the diligence is also concordant perfection. Joyous effort is like the thoroughbred horse. Thoroughbred horse. The text says thoroughbred horse, but I've translated it as a vehicle. So, just like a thoroughbred horse is very good in racing and running and so on, likewise, your joyous effort that you employ should not be something that is very kind of very sort of inspired at the beginning, and then but doesn't stay inspired towards the middle of the hardships. Just as the thoroughbred horse transports effortlessly to any destination one wishes to go. Therefore, the practice of the three types of joyous effort we discussed above will also enable the person to swiftly transport to the aspired destination. So therefore, one remembers and in the old days, the analogy is horse. So horse is the analogy, but I would use the vehicle. These days, we don't use horse as so much for mode of transportation. You have all kinds of transportation if you're allowed to go anywhere in Australia. If you're allowed to go anywhere, you will use a vehicle. Remember your vehicle. I should, only if my diligence was like my vehicle. Vehicle, whether you load them with the grocery, or whether you load them with the friends, or whether you load them with the horse manure, or the vehicle doesn't mind. So the Bodhisattva should be happy mule. Bodhisattva should be a happy mule. Whatever the what do you call mule driver? Muleteer? What do you call those people who could drive caravans? Muleteer, is it? Maybe I'm trying to make up a word here. People who use drive a lot of mules to carry heavy load on the caravans. They usually have a name. Anyway, he's the driver of the animals, huh?
Muleteer.
Muleteer. I think so. Muleteer, yeah. And when the muleteer drives the mules to carry, the mules are always happy. Particularly, they put this funny thing on the top of the head and a big bell on the neck, and the mules get inspired by the sound of the bell and walks faster, even though the load is very heavy, but the mule is very heavy to carry. So you should be like vehicles. You should be inspired by something. Maybe the sound of the bell. Sound of the bell. You should carry however big burden your mother gives, or your husband gives, your wife gives, your friend gives, whatever. Instead of complaining, you just carry it with joyous, delightfully. When you ask somebody to help you and you do them they did so with willingness, such a wonderful, isn't it? When somebody assists you with such a willingness and joyous effort, it just gives you more than you ask for. It's just such a delightful people to work with, I call it. Not only they did delightfully, but it delights the other. And that's the delight the others. So the vehicle is so giving. It doesn't ask anything back. It's happy with quite a few leftover food and off-cuts of vegetables, but that's all it needs. but when on the road, it carries you. So your bodhichitta, your joyous effort, your willingness, your diligence to help with sentient beings should be like a vehicle, like the vehicle. So that takes us as far as the joyous effort, and then next one is the analogy for the perfection of meditation, concentration, and that analogy is a reservoir. The reservoir, the result of concordant perfection, meditative concentration should be like a reservoir. The reservoir never runs out of water. Likewise, it's not runs out of water, but it's source of energy of everyone in the town who drinks the water. The reservoir is the source of inexhaustible water and energy. Likewise, practice of the threefold meditative concentration, which we talked about, the warrior-like and illusion-like and ocean-like meditation we talked about. Yeah, 3 types of meditation. Concentration is the reservoir of inexhaustible qualities such as clairvoyance. All the qualities of Buddha's enlightenment came from the reservoir of meditative concentration. He sat motionless under the Bodhi tree for 6 continuous years, not just half an hour, not just a couple of days in retreat. He sat there 6 years, and he stood there like the reservoir. The reservoir is still giving water to us. We are still drinking the water. We're talking about how many years we've been running the Karma Bearing course here, We constantly teach it. It still doesn't exhaust my motivation to run the courses. Why? Because it is we are connected with the reservoir of Buddha's meditative concentration, from which his enlightenment came from, yeah? From which even his enlightenment came from meditation, remember? Remember that. Even enlightenment came from meditation. Enlightenment is a result. The cause of enlightenment is meditation. The meditation should be not like a small pond, It should be big reservoir fit for 30 million people, 30 million citizens. How about that? Whereas that would be considered very big, isn't it? Now, Dharma reservoir, Buddha's meditative concentration reservoir, is not 30 million, There's they say there's 450 million Buddhist practitioners, That's just in this generation, In the old time, it would be much more than that. How many people were all inspired by the Samadhi Paramita of the Shakyamuni Buddha's meditation? It truly is a reservoir. It never runs out of cause to water people, cause to irrigate the drought-stricken mind stream of sentient beings. The water of the Dharma came from the moisture of the Buddha's meditative concentration. So that's why you think of the reservoir. Think of the water tanks in your home. All of these are good analogy that your meditative concentration should be a great treasure house of water. Your life is so dehydrated when the meditation isn't happening. When you meditate regularly, your life becomes a bit more hydrated, and you will have some degree of growth and movement and unfolding happen because you are not neglecting your meditative practices. So that's analogy very useful, because when you have, they say, but the people who are giving talks, they always have to drink a little bit of water. It not only sort of helps them to stop drying their throat, but actually it clarifies their mind. Without water, you can't. You can fast food for a few days, but wait until you don't drink water. We'll be all dead. And in 11 days' time, we'll be all dead without water. So, Dharma, meditative concentration, is the water of enlightenment. If your life is dehydrated because you feel you're sad or upset or unable to love or unable to appreciate or unable to forgive, it's because you are dehydrated. Your meditation has been neglected. Your sadhana practice has been neglected. And as a result of that, you feel dehydrated. Wait until you become connected to the town water. Town water. Wait until you wouldn't mind paying the water rates. I tell you that. Nobody complained about paying the water rate because it's so reliable. Those who have small little tanks, particularly if it doesn't rain, then they have no water because they are not connected. So when you're doing your regular meditative concentration as the fifth paramita, you are hydrated. You are regularly fueling yourself with good meditative concentration. And you will see the clarity of mind. You will have the fitness to practice compassion will come because you meditate. Then the subsequent example of the sixth paramita this must be the 20th. The result of the concordant perfection of wisdom is like a big divine drum. That's the 20th example is divine drum. Divine drum. Divine drum is a drum, this is not the ordinary drum. This is a drum that is which we call the divine drum. When this big drum is struck, and it gives the sounds of the 10, it gives sounds to all 10 directions of the 4 seals of dharma. This is amazing. So this drum when you beat, it says, "Oh, everything is impermanent. Don't take too seriously." It beats another drum. The sounds comes. All contaminated afflictions are suffering. So it's very good. It doesn't say the people's what they do to you is suffering. It doesn't say that. It's all afflicted emotions are suffering, which is amazing lyric. It's so correct. But when you don't have the dharma, we think it's someone else did this to me, therefore I'm suffering. But those who heard the true drum, they wake up, no, it's afflictive emotions are suffering. Yeah? Very, very good to remember this. Divine drum, divine drum. Drums beaten in them. And there is no self. It's very good. Wow, that's a hard note to play. And it's even harder to fathom its meanings. Most people have no ability to think that. They say, "Oh, how come?" They become startled by thinking there's no self. But actually, if you have the comprehension to hear all sound, that all things are the natural self, there is no truly existing self. There's no autonomously existing self. There's no independently existing self. There's no permanent existing. There's merely provisionally labeled self, but it is not named after somebody else, something else. It's not the name. It's not the thing itself. So that's the drum. So this divine drum is the subsequent, means second analogy of the perfection of wisdom, the sixth paramita. Yeah? Sixth paramita. So that takes us as far as the 20th example, 20th analogy. So now it remains only two more analogies, and we have still remaining 4 paramitas. The four remaining paramitas is skillfulness, upaya paramita, bala paramita with the power, and apranidhana paramita, which is aspiration, and then primordial wisdom, these 4. So these 4 remaining, I would say, paramitas have 2 analogies left. So first 2 shares the 21 analogy, 21st, and the last 2 shares the analogy of the 22nd. So what we have, so that means the upaya paramita, which is skillfulness, and the aspiration paramita. These two are the share the examples. Yeah? Share the example of the Yeah, just before going there, I'm misreading one more line on the divine drum. He says that the result of concordant perfection wisdom is the big divine drum, which, for example, known as the big drum of the cloud's power, gives melodious sound of the true four seals of Dharma in all 10 directions without anyone beating the drum. So it doesn't need a drum beater, doesn't need drumstick, okay, particularly the chicken one. It beats automatically. It's a beat. This drum beats automatically, and just as the drum's melody automatically sound the power of the gods, and from the three wisdoms, the melody of the four summation of Dharma is hearkened. Four summation of Dharma means four seals of Dharma. Quintessence of Dharma, synthesis of Dharma is called four seals of Dharma. So that's amazing. Just always remember the four seals of Dharma. It will definitely wake you up. Because your suffering comes from thinking, I shouldn't be suffering. He shouldn't be like this. My job shouldn't be like this. He's always rejecting the truth, rejecting the wrong views, rejecting the reality as it is. What the seals of Dharma is, all afflictive emotions are sufferings. So obviously you have greed or anger, or this one of the afflictive emotions are suppressing your mind. That's what the suffering is. So when you remember the four seals of Dharma, have them tattooed on your arm. Why tattoo for nothing? I don't know why people tattoo motor bicycles or some funny, people tattoo. Your body is quite a lot of space, to tattoo on your arm. The four seals of Dharma, really good. Why not tattoo something useful that you can read, other people can read too, If somebody complains, just show your arm like this. So you can carry the placard of the four seals of Dharma wherever you go. Very useful, I think. Maybe someone can manufacture the placards, and send it to Dharma friends. And every now and then, if somebody is difficult, just show them the placard. Very good. Is the analogy of the divine drum, divine drum. So that's the 20th analogy. Then the concordant result of the perfection of skillful means and perfection of aspiration is river. Now river, whether you see Molongo River or Manning River, Manning is it? River Manning is a river in the New South Wales. Manning? Murray River. I think Manning is a river up near northern New South Wales. Whenever you go small through rivers, just remember, use it as a reminder that you should be your practice of skillfulness and your practice of aspiration should be like the river. Why? Just as the river is the source of inexhaustible water, water imparts inexhaustible drink, and it is also it is the cause of many towns, and people who are usually situated at the bank of the river. So your skillfulness should be like a river. Should be like a river. If you become skillful, then even though things are difficult, you just become a river to them, because you showed them the way that they were stranded. They have no way to do anything without the river. They couldn't irrigate the water. They couldn't have sports. They couldn't swim. They couldn't water the garden. So the river is amazing selfless example of these two paramita. The first, the skillfulness, upaya paramita, and pranidhana paramita. Why? The river is the source of all kinds of energy. Whether humans drink it, whether they will wash it. So likewise, you should become. You should become. That's what Nagarjuna wrote in his Mula Madhyamika text, the root verses. He says, "Let me be earth, let me be water, let me be fire, let me be space." He didn't say, "Let me become great monk." Because great monk got a lot of egos, But the river got no ego. River got no ego. River got no ego. It just allows everybody to scoop water from that, wash in it, take water from it, irrigate water from it, put boat into it, put your sewer into it. Oh, river just takes everything selflessly. So your skillfulness should be like a river that washes away other people's dirt, other people's they call laundry. Yeah, you can wash other people's laundry. Very good. That's the Bodhisattva. He should not only wash your laundry with your water, but other people's laundry. Particularly when they throw on your head, it's a very good idea. they call door matting or something in the West, Your rubbish. Some people throw their rubbish on you. Looks like theirs, but you are water, so you don't mind. You have every capacity, every fitness to wash them at no complaint. You are selfless like a river. We're too busy being human beings. That's the problem. We can be like nature would be good, That's why the Maitreya Buddha uses these 22 analogies, This only human they use analogies, the king or spiritual masters, things like that. Otherwise, all the analogies are with nature, From earth all the way to cloud, everything, All these analogies is so that people forget bodhicitta very easily. They remember some unnecessary things, but they forget bodhicitta. Particularly people say, what's your lineage? So important. Gosh, don't ask me again about lineages. Sick of it. What is the teaching you practice? You say, bodhicitta. Very good. Bodhicitta, very good. And then they talk about the lineage. Oh, this is our lineage specialty. There's our lineage specialty. Oh, this deity is this lineage. Who cares what color of the deity is, the different distinctive features of lineage? If they don't have bodhicitta, deities mean nothing. Deity is a manifestation of realization of bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta manifests as a deity. Yeah? Emptiness manifests as a deity. And what is emptiness? Emptiness, ultimate bodhicitta, is the deity. What's the lineage? Nothing. Nothing special. If the bodhicitta is not there, what's the point of lineage? So all these lineage-centric people, I've been telling to my brother, who we practice together once a week these days, I said, sometimes I have to be critical of my own tradition. I said, Tibetan Buddhists are lineage-centric. It's not important. They always talk about what lineage is. So important. Buddha lineage. Tell them, I'm Buddha lineage. And that'll keep them quiet. Buddha lineages. We're not promoting Sakya. Nothing to promote Sakya. It's a talk about landscape in Tibet. Grey earth or something. Why promote Sakya when you can promote Bodhicitta? So when you have bodhicitta, you got a hope. you got a hope. When you forget the bodhicitta, the rest are not so important. Rest is a complete burden. Complete burden. It will not give you any benefit, but it only will get in the way for you to benefit anyone, including yourself. Bodhicitta teaches us selflessness and practice just that with fellow sentient beings. So river is nature, beautiful, isn't it? River. They talk about rivers in the ancient Buddhist history. They talk about the Bhagirathi and the Niranjana River. This is like 2nd century, 5th century BC. This is like 2,600 years ago. When you go there, the river is still there. Niranjana is still there. Bhagirathi is still there. And the Ganges is still there. They're always there. They never give up. They always is the cause of people's life sources, energy, irrigation, everything. It's totally selfless. The bodhicitta must be remembered how to emulate the river. So selflessness, the skillfulness and aspiration to help other beings should not run out, should not dry up, but continue flow like a river. River is continually flowing uninterruptedly, not interrupting at 4 o'clock, not interrupting in the middle of the night when everybody's sleeping. It is constantly flowing, you know. Those people who have business on the river, they'll tell you. You know, I need to tell you a story here. When Mahasiddha Virupa wanted to cross the Ganges, the boatman says, "I will first give me the fare for the ferry." And Virupa was a very eccentric Mahasiddha, you know. He said, "I'll give you the river." He says, "You don't ask money, I'll give you the river instead." Almost saying, you already got the river, the more valuable than my penny. And the guy said, No, I don't. I want money. I wouldn't take you unless, you know, what sort of fare is that? You say you're giving me river. He says, if that's the case, I wouldn't give you the river. And then he just snapped his finger and the river dried up. And parted. River parted, and the Mahasiddha Virupa crossed the river because there's no river now. There's only dry path. So the river dried up, you know. The river was receding in the back, at the top, in the upstream as well as downstream. And then the boatman says, please restore my river, restore my river. Restore my river. And of course, then Mahasiddha Virupa said, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then the boatman, that was last time he will use the boat. He gave up ferryman's job. He followed the Siddha, asked him, please teach me, please accept me as disciple. So there is the story of the Dombiheruka. Dombiheruka. This is Krishnapa. Krishnapa is the disciple. So river is more valuable than any money. So our Bodhichitta runs like a river. Very good. So don't forget this analogy of river, you know. So that's the 21st example. And then the last of the 22 example is the concordant perfection wisdom of power and perfection wisdom, primal wisdom is cloud. Is cloud. Now this is why what I was saying, that you should say, 22 analogies from earth all the way to the cloud. That's what it usually says in Buddhist teaching, says from earth to cloud, those examples. So now you should remember all those 22 analogies. The first 3 is wishing bodhicitta, and the 4th one is an overall analogy engaging bodhicitta, and then the other 10 are all relevant example for each of the 10 parameters. Remaining 8 are subsequent analogy of the subsequent examples of the 10 parameters. Primordial wisdom and the wisdom of power of perfection wisdom of power and primordial wisdom is cloud. Why? Just as cloud makes rain, cause rain to ripen all bountiful harvest, like the rainfall of Dharma from the clouds of power and transcendental wisdom increase the growth of realization of all devotee sentient beings. Yeah. So the cloud of the Dharma, the cloud should be remembered as the analogy of the 2 remaining and 2 last the parameters. Yeah, the 2 last parameters. This completes the teaching on the enlightenment thought. So enlightenment thought is the first of the 10 chapters. So we have concluded that. concluded that. So there of the 10 chapters, the first chapter concludes here. That is all on bodhicitta. So this is most extensive way of looking at how to employ the practice of bodhicitta, both wishing and engaging bodhicitta, and how to intersect all of these analogies to each other and make those analogies useful reminder so that we do not forget to practice bodhicitta. Even you meditate calm abiding, even you do special insight, even you do deity yoga meditation, even you do prostration, even you do preliminary practices, even you do half a dozen sadhanas, they're all to boost your bodhicitta, to engage yourself into the selfless practice of implementation of these 6 paramitas. Now we come to the second chapter of this book, which is the how to practice the instructions. How to practice the instructions. So this has 10 subdivisions. This is called the practice itself, the first one. Second is truths, which is the 4 noble truths. And then third is the 3 gems. And fourth is without clinging and becoming wearied on the path of dharma, how to stay on the path without clinging to your accomplishment, being wearied by difficulties. And fifth is called holding the complete path. Sixth one is attaining clairvoyant divine eyes, 5 divine eyes called. And the 7th one itself is called clairvoyance. The clairvoyance is quite different from the actual clairaudience and things like that. Clairaudience is related with the 5 senses itself. The 7th one is clairvoyance in general. And then the clairvoyance, and then the 8th one is path of seeing. So, but that is actually path of seeing. And then 9th is the path of meditation, which is actual enlightenment of the Buddhas. And then the overall instruction. So these 10 we will be covering. Hopefully, these 10 are very bulky subject, but we will just do the first one tonight. First one is the practice. The practice is to do the practice, actual nature of the practice. We have already talked about the armoring the wishing bodhicitta as the preliminary, and then the actual practice, and then establish the meditative equanimity. The main practice is meditative equanimity, remaining in the meditative equanimity, knowing all phenomena as the sky, as the middle of the sky. There's very profound meditation. This is sometimes called sky gazing. The practice is looking in the middle of the space. Everything is middle of the sky. But when you're trying to isolate something as something, you don't see the middle of the sky. You don't see the emptiness. Middle of the sky means emptiness. So seeing all phenomena as the sky, and in post-meditation, knowing that all phenomena appear or you can hear, you can smell, you can taste, you touch, that do not really exist in reality. So this is the practice of the one who use these 10 paramitas. Paramitas should see all things as middle of the sky, and liken everything as the middle of the sky, because in the middle of the sky there's emptiness. There's nothing but pure space, pure space. It's indescribable. It's beyond your ordinary thoughts. You could not, it's profound and peaceful and transcendental. And so in this way, you always can utilize meditatively in that state of mind. And this practice, when you do this practice, then the meaning of this practice is that the realization of the actual emptiness. you have to practice the 6 paramitas to realize emptiness of the paramitas, and the person who practices it. So therefore, meaning of the realization of actual emptiness concerned with the necessity to become free from all fabrication in relation to the true mode of reality of the true truths. Yeah. Therefore, to cut through the fabrication, it is a necessity to open the 3 thorough doors of liberation. So this is how do you meditate on the emptiness is 3 thorough doors. 3 thorough doors. 3 thorough doors means liberative doors, which liberates you. If 3 thorough doors of liberations are wide open, all doors of Dharma will open. So your mind must meditate on the 3 thorough doors of liberation. These 3 thorough doors are the door of emptiness, door of signlessness, and door of wishlessness. Now, the 3 doors to the treasure house of precious wish-fulfilling gem, so why they called door? The door means you have the door that makes you to reach to the treasure house of the precious wish-fulfilling gem. That is the conception of Bodhichitta in your mind, of the intrinsic nature of the mind, of the perfection wisdom, are right now tightly shut. We cannot access the perfection of wisdom, Paramita, because we are not seeing it as middle of the sky. We will see this as this and finite. As you see a nail, we think the nail is truly nail from its own side. We have no idea how long ago nail was a nail, and it was something else. It was iron ore, part of your floor or part of the mountain, and there was no nail. But nail was completely produced. Whatever is produced do not truly exist from its own side. It is made. Whatever is made is impermanent, and therefore there is no intrinsically existing a thing. So therefore, looking in the middle of the sky is like seeing no nail in the nail, okay? I'm giving an example of nail, but here you can use anything that your life actually presents as a challenge. You think this is the truth, I have got a challenge, this is a problem. But look at whether that always existed, or like that. Has it always existed? No, didn't exist at all like that. It was something else before that, and now how long will it stay like that? So look carefully. You might see the nail disappearing into the sky. Oh, your concept of the nail disappearing in the sky. So in this way, what we're talking about here is the 3 thorough doors of liberation. Treasure house, the precious wish-fulfilling gem, is right now tightly shut. They need to be opened with the 3 keys. The 3 keys are the 3 thorough doors of liberation. Yeah. So how do you do that? So do that, the meaning of this may be revealed as the instruction. So that is the instruction. So Rongton is now revealing the instruction. Rongton, perfection wisdom is usually these 3. The emptiness, which we've been talking about, the 10 paramitas, but which those paramitas become paramita only if you employ these 3 thorough doors of liberation. Generally, all samsaric conditions are creation of one's own conceptions and conditioned by conceptual thoughts. This is very important to know, that how anything that manifests to us are our conceptions, our opinions. What thing is not what it is, but what we conceptually think it is. How are these conceptual things created? Yeah, the conception of self-grasping creates the 2 perception: creation of self and creation of the other perception. Creation of self, creation of the other. Self-perception and other perception. Yeah. Now this is telling us the actual psychology of the conceptions. From these perceptions of self and perception of other, from this arise desire for self and aversion to the other, yeah, and ignorance of both. So this is how the frictions proliferate or flourish when there is fixed conception of self and the other. One experiences immeasurable suffering due to many deeds consummated by this conception of I and I am, and the other who they are not me, that's not mine. Oh, that's not my child, or something like that. Oh, that's my child, and things like that. So there's a conception of self and conception of other, then desire for I and mine, and aversion or negligence of the other, and then not realizing how that is a very ignorant way of doing things. So one experiences all the suffering due to being under the sway of these three afflictions, and that's the tightly shut door. The result, the fault, this is the fault of the failure to vanquish the enemy of dualistic conception. Enemy of dualistic conception. Yeah, real enemy is dualistic conception. Conception of self and conception of others, When you look from the sky, you don't see any boundaries between houses, Only when you're in this side of the house, then the other one is the others. And this is my fence. This is your side. But when you're flying over it, you don't see others. So, dualistic concept. So to vanquish them is mandatory to possess the flawless instruction of three thorough doors of liberation. So, first one has to recognize conception, which is blocking the door. So conception is blocking the door to access the three thorough doors, The intrinsic nature of samsara and nirvana is actually empty of samsara in samsara and empty of nirvana in nirvana. Neither samsara nor nirvana intrinsically exist in themselves, other than the conception. Not realizing this, grasping to object blocked the thorough doors of emptiness. Yeah. Because you're grasping to the nail, you couldn't see the middle of the sky. You can't say I found the middle of the sky here. It would be good. I found the middle of the sky here. Some people ask, can you please go and bring the knife from the kitchen? You say, here it is. What do you? Middle of the sky. Don't you think that's more important? Middle of the sky. Even your problems are middle of the sky, When you think you got a problem, your problem comes because of self-grasping. And what you don't want and what you want. These conception of self and conception of what you don't want. These two then creates the problem. This is the ignorance of all ignorance. When we don't see that, and then we are blocked. We couldn't access, We couldn't access the door. We couldn't access the door, thorough doors of liberation. First one has to recognize conception, which is blocking the door. The conception is the blocking the door. What is the conception in anything? You need to metacognitively recognize your conception as your conception. So it's your conception that is the problem. Yeah, until we recognize that, until we recognize this conception, we would not be able to see the emptiness of the conceived. The object does not independently exist as the conception dictates. The conception that we recognize itself is blocking the door. We call preconceived ideas. Yeah, preconceived idea. That's what it really means. Preconceived ideas, Intrinsic nature of samsara, nirvana, both are empty. Not realizing this, the grasping to object block the thorough door of liberation. So this tells why we cannot realize emptiness. Why we can't realize emptiness is we are stuck in the concept, saying, I'm the one who is patient to you. You've been doing this so many times. I'm still patient. Now my patience is running thin, they call it. Because one has the conception that one is the patient as other is not. Other is actually testing your patience, if you have truly existing patience or not. And they're proving that there's no truly existing patient in you. And yet, one has been grasping, thinking I'm a patient person. There is no patience that is truly existing, remember? Even if you practice patience as a bodhisattva, your patience is largely someone harming you gives you opportunity to practice patience. So your conception, I'm patient, is the problem. That is the door that is locked. Because your conception is saying, I'm the one who's patient. The bodhisattvas do not think that I'm patient. They think that someone's hard lifting or aggression to you is cause of your patience. So the patience is not inherently existing, nor is nirvana inherently existing. That lack of inherently existing is the thorough door of emptiness. Thorough door of emptiness. The thorough door of emptiness. So, although the base is established as emptiness, so when we talk about these three doors, we should think about these as a ground, path, and result. Ground is emptiness, path is wishlessness, path is signlessness, and result is wishlessness. So that's one way of looking at it. That's a useful way of looking at it. Why these triple T, these three tier doors, three thorough doors of liberation. Thorough meaning it's very, 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 very liberating. Although the base is established as emptiness, grasping and attachment to the path as a sign. That's what I'm talking about, the lineage, Oh, I'm this, we are this, they are not this. All this clinging to the sign and colors or names or history or labels, or this block the thorough door of signlessness. Yeah, you couldn't realize empty signlessness, because signlessness means empty in the middle of the space is signlessness. Yeah, middle of the space is signlessness. There's no sign. It's a signlessness. But because one is grasping to the path, as truly existing. So therefore, that's why in the Heart Sutta there's no path, there's no attainment, there's no non-attainment. Why it is saying there is no attainment, there is no path? It says there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no path. Only when you realize no path that truly exists, then you have realized the sign of the door of signlessness. Otherwise, one is attached to the signness, to the entityness of thing. Although the result is immaculate purity of one's own mind, by wishing a result, arising in the future from somewhere else, block the door of wishlessness. So therefore, these at the beginning, the emptiness was blocked because one is clinging to signs, and therefore one couldn't. Sign was blocked. The thorough door of signlessness couldn't realize because one is attached to a sign, symbol, in a name, and entities. Of course, these are mainly meditative practice. Yeah. It's not fair for me to be talking about this. You should be meditating. I have to create a sign to realize signlessness. Make some noise to realize noiselessness. So, don't look at the finger, they say. Look at the moon. Yeah. I wasn't pointing to the moon either. I was pointing the moonlessness of it. Moonlessness of it. So, because of that, so in order to now open the door, the instruction to open the doors, these three doors, constitute the establishment of all phenomena as emptiness. So you should meditate all phenomena and emptiness. Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddha Hang. We always do that in Vajrayana Sadhana. All phenomena are by nature pure. So I too am pure. So pure means emptiness, So the instruction to open the door constitute establishment of all phenomena empty by joining the ground. See, the ground is the Ground is the emptiness, yeah? Ground with the thorough draws of liberation. So that's what I said. Ground is the emptiness. And then join the path with the signlessness. Yeah, then the signlessness, because you wouldn't be clinging to any entity, any sign. And that's the path. And that joins the result of wishlessness. These will automatically release all forms of grasping to true existing and open the thorough doors of liberation of emptiness. By severing the clinging to the intrinsic nature of the path, it opens the thorough doors of signlessness. The realization of the emptiness of the result will open the thorough doors of wishlessness. Wishlessness. So, in this way, firstly, when we talk about this, it will be opened by means of practicing 4 armors. So there are the 4 armors. The armor of engagement involves with emptiness. So you need to meditate emptiness, Meditate with emptiness. All visual, all auditory phenomena that you think are forms, that you think are sound, are actually in the state of emptiness. From the very moment of your recognition of a tree or bird call, they actually are empty. They are in the state of emptiness. But the tree doesn't say, I'm tree, can't you notice me? Tree is empty of tree, Tree is empty of tree. But as soon as we recognize, this is a sandalwood tree, then it becomes sign, just pops out of all the other trees. All the other trees eliminated, all the other wood are eliminated, and the sign of the sandalwood tree becomes manifest, visible of the grasping. So you don't realize emptiness. No sign of emptiness. Sign, you have grasping the sign, and you want the sandalwood tree. That's right. So wish there. Usually people see what they're looking for. But they didn't. They were looking for problem, and they found problem. They were looking for emptiness, they will find emptiness. So if they're looking for emptiness, a problem, then the problem actually is like empty of the space. Yeah, it does not manifest anymore. Why? Because you are employing, you are employing the armor of engagement, and all visual and auditory phenomena abiding in the state of emptiness from the very moment of their recognition. In the face of not being examined, usually we don't examine. In the face of not being examined, they appear while abiding in the state of emptiness. When you don't investigate it, it looks like a sandalwood tree. Then the thing, as soon as you label it, then the sign manifests. Because you put the label, As soon as you put a label, then the tree comes out of all the other trees as the tree, Because you designate the label, and then the emptiness could not bear anymore. Emptiness was now given a label. And when they're given a label, then it becomes signed. It becomes signed up, It becomes signed. And so for instance, if somebody says, who's your best friend? Start thinking. All of a sudden you might say, who's my best friend? All of a sudden you pick somebody up, out of the emptiness, Before there wasn't spontaneous saying such and such. No, you were conceptualizing who is, who isn't. So actually there was emptiness of the friend. But out of that, when you conceptualize, then you pick someone, and then he or she now manifests as my best friend, So the entity of the sign manifests, and then whatever you wish to do with the best friend or for or whatever, all manifests from that. So this is the kind of what he's talking about. Therefore, having realized all phenomena in samsara, nirvana, appear in various forms are non-duality of appearance and emptiness. Until you realize the emptiness, they are appearances. All forms are emptiness, manifesting as a result of your conceptualization of not seeing emptiness, but seeing something else. As soon as you don't see emptiness, you see something else. Most of the time, we don't have a problem with seeing emptiness. We don't see emptiness. That's the problem. We see always something. It's because you're busy with seeing something, you can't see the emptiness. So you're too conceptually engaged with the form, and so that's why it says all appearance in samsara and nirvanas are non-duality of appearance and emptiness. Appearance because it when you don't examine, and emptiness after you examine. What we don't do is we don't do enough examination that they are empty. When we examine, they really are empty, other than your designation of it, your labeling to it, your conceptualizing it, and whatever other paraphernalia that we try to put together. And therefore, one should enter in the meditative equanimity of emptiness of the mode of reality as it is, by focusing on the appearance of meditative concentration. All appearance. That's why we meditate on deity, not because we're bored with something in the world. we are so good at conceptualizing, and then the Vajrayana says, let's challenge him. Let's give him another imaginative practice. He's so good at creating emptiness into form. He's so good at seeing things without realizing emptiness. Now give him an opportunity to realize emptiness of form. And then you visualize the deities. The more you meditate on the deities, more it should inform and reform your understanding to examine that all forms are not truly existing. All forms are empty of the form, other than the conceptions. When you're able to do that, the amazing thing about that is it says here in one of the Perfection Wisdom metered version of Sanchaya Gata text, possess the proper introspection with walking, standing, lying down, or sitting. Let's think about something right now. So, like we're looking around here, looks like people are sitting, or people are listening, or people are nodding, or people are tired. What do you think? I could say Kath is tired, but that's my conception. If she's tired, she'd be sleeping at home. So it's my conception. My conception out of the form of something, I would give a label, yeah? So then I give a label. She's tired, or he's excited, or he's bored, or he's inspired, or whatever we give. It's all out of emptiness. The conception manifests. As soon as the conception manifests, then I label the conception to the object. then the form becomes no longer emptiness. Form becomes signed. Emptiness is not realized. Because of that, it became a form. And form has been designated. Form has been designated, and therefore a phenomena exists. So what we're talking about in this meditation is, therefore, by meditating on this, one should strive in all the time how sentient beings fail to see or examine the forms. If they examine the form, they know it's emptiness. When they don't examine, they think it's a form. And, whether it's white or red or old or new or, stale food or fresh food or all these things, what we call, is when they don't see the emptiness, all the forms manifest. So, through the armor of, that's the armor of engagement, yeah? Second is armor of rejection. This is very important. This is rejecting the conceptions. Once you reject the grasping to phenomena that your mind now conceived, yeah? As soon as something does not appear emptiness, but something else, you should engage, you have to armor the rejection. Armor the rejection, you should employ the rejection. That the thing is, you are grasping to as a phenomena, yeah? Once you reject the grasping to phenomena as a form that your mind has dictated. through the realization of meaning of emptiness. So if you reject the phenomena as truly existing, that's called armoring the rejection, then you realize if the form is not what appears, which you rejected, then what is it? It's emptiness. So it is empty. It is empty of the object. Empty of the object. So all grasping to true existing has been completely cut. Once you are able to do one severance of the rejection of the appearance as true, rejection of the appearance as truly existing, then you realize, that's this. I should use this next time again. So you're rejecting all the conceptions. When you reject the conception, you see the emptiness of the conception. Because there's no conception. And then third is the armor of the right view. Armor of the view is once you realize the mode of reality of object through the wisdom derived from clear thought. So now your mind is very clear. It is only your conception that has designated and labeled. When you don't label it, a thing doesn't manifest as something from its own side. It's only when you unlabel it, there is no sign. There is emptiness. There is no sign to develop grasping to. And as a result of that, your subjective mind becomes very clear. One should then experience meaning by gaining realization by means of the view of the armor of wisdom. Now you armor the wisdom. After careful analysis, the form is not form. Form is only what you conceive and what you label. When you don't conceive particular way and don't label it, your mind becomes subjectively clear. As a result of that, this careful analysis enables you to armor the wisdom. And the wisdom should also possess two meanings. Stable wisdom is like a mountain that cannot be moved by the four maras. Deep wisdom is like the ocean that cannot be fathomed by the four maras. So we're talking about the wisdom should be like a deep, like a stable like mountain, and a deep like ocean. What was the other? The wisdom of courageous warrior. So when you develop these thorough doors of emptiness and thorough doors of signlessness and wishlessness, then your meditation becomes stable like mountain, deep like ocean, fearless like a warrior. So that is what we call the first is the thorough doors of emptiness. Thorough doors of emptiness as the ground. Now the second is the thorough door of signlessness of the paths. This is signlessness, thorough doors of signlessness. The signlessness path is objectified when the problem is remedied. Problem is when the problem of grasping to phenomena is no longer exists, the sign doesn't exist. So signlessness of the path is objectified. If the sign appears due to the clinging to the path or conception, knowing that even the antidote itself like true exists. Very good. Antidote itself does not truly exist. That's the signlessness of the path. Otherwise, you'll be grasping to the path, One should neither conceive the remedy nor the problem like the middle of the sky. Neither the problem nor the remedies truly exist independent of each other, independent of each other, and therefore they are both equally like the middle of the sky. So remedy and problem are mutually inclusive, and they both are not anything from its own side. Like the empty middle of the sky is nothing, nothing. By using these, by examining where the mind has arisen. From what one cannot find the source of the cause. Now you couldn't find where is this mind that has originated to notice this. So you couldn't find a sign of the mind being yellow or red or blue or male or female or 22-year-old or 40-year-old. You can't you can't date the mind. You can't measure them. You can't you can't contact trace the mind. It definitely is signless. You couldn't say it was here a minute ago. Maybe it's got a left imprint here. Maybe it's got his thumb in a fingerprint. Mine got no fingers. Yeah. So you can't find the source. By using discriminating wisdom and check where the nature mind is abiding with a shape or color, failing to find anywhere, let it be placed with the meaning of being in the state of meditation, which is being in the middle of the sky again. Yeah, so the middle of the sky. This is why I call a lot of yogis who have lots of good calm abiding meditation, has good conceptual understanding of emptiness. They can actually really meditate on emptiness. Not because they are escaping from reality, but reality themselves don't really exist. You don't have to go to the mountains to see emptiness. Everywhere is empty, middle of space. Mountains got no more middle of space that the cities don't have. Even the city of 30 million is middle of the space. Particularly if you fly up, the city of 30 million doesn't look a little dot down there, In the space, the city of 30 million is just a dot. That's why we have all these .coms. They're nothing but .coms. Of course, if you're looking from the other side of the road, you're building maybe 20-story or whatever. But from the sky, it's the middle of the sky. There's nothing that actually seems like a tall. There's hardly any visibility, let alone it's to measure its height. You don't try to measure the sky, okay? Please don't try. So when you understand emptiness, very liberating, Signless. You don't try to sign or own something as yours and something as they're doing and having affecting to you and so on. By examining where the mind has arisen, I think we've read through that. Yeah, you can't find the color or shape. Failing to find anywhere, let the mind be placed in the meaning of being in the state of meditation, which itself is being in the middle of the sky. After doing repeated investigation of the very discriminating wisdom itself, one cannot find anything, even the meditating mind itself. Very good. Because you can't say, I found the mind. I found the mind, and don't even say I found emptiness. That's what Buddha couldn't say anything. So some people thought they realized emptiness, and they said they realized emptiness. They forgot the real truth. So, by grasping to the path with sign is severed by finding nothing whatsoever like the middle of the sky through meditative equanimity of placing it with the same meaning. Subsequently, if clinging develops to the antidote, the mind of Buddha cannot be seen. Yeah, mind of Buddha cannot be seen. You can't say this is the antidote. Therefore, do not taste the flavor after the confusion has severed. Do not trace it. Therefore, Padamba is a 12th century Tibetan yogi said, do not become attached to the torch with which the gem was found. You may want to exhibit the torch. This is the torch with which I found the gem. Buddhism saved my life. Don't say that. What is the Buddhism? What is your life? To be saved. Saved from what? 2 years of not bickering? What are you talking about? How about the last 20 years? Was it saved? I thought that was empty too, You're no longer bickering. That's a saving. Gosh, no. This looks like a little bit of plateauing your practice. But it hasn't really peaked at all. It's yet to be peaked, I think. The true meditation, neither focusing on the object nor the subjective antidote, are respectively said to be non-abiding application and application of non-application. Hence, there are 4 equanimities. The meditation without antidote is said to be the application of the subjective equanimity. Subjective equanimity. So that's the path of signlessness. The last one is the path of wishlessness. Thorough doors of wishlessness. After the nature of one's own mind has become manifest, I don't know what that is, the lack of impurity is termed as if result has been attained. Yeah. So. Therefore, realizing the lack of any result to attain elsewhere is devoid of wishing a result. You don't have to anticipate or wish or seek any result. Therefore, this opens the door of wishlessness. This completes the actual instruction on the nature of the actual practice of the perfection wisdom. The actual practice of perfection wisdom is the second chapter, which is the meditation on the 3 thorough doors of liberation, collectively called emptiness, because emptiness liberates you; signlessness, because signlessness liberates you. If you're fixated in founding and holding onto a sign, you are not liberated. You're still grasping to a sign. And when there is no sign and due to emptiness and signlessness, there is no wish for a result. So you're not seeking any result. Journey without a goal, they call it. Yeah. So you do not have this fixed destination because there's no journeyer. So long as the emptiness of self is not realizing, there is a constant journey happening. All the ups and downs, all the memoirs people write. All the memoirs people write. The journey. He hasn't realized goalless journey. He still hasn't finished the journey. He has a battering experience on the road, on the bottom of the hill. he couldn't get away anywhere. He doesn't realize the emptiness. So that concludes the first meditation. This is the instruction itself. The instruction itself. Of course, this very much synthesizes what we've been talking in each of the 10 parameters in association with the 22 analogies. All of the perfection wisdom is 2, relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. So in many ways, all the 10 parameters are relative engaged bodhicittas. Until you invoke this instruction, this pithy instruction we just discussed of the 3 thorough doors of liberation. Once you employ the 3 thorough doors of liberation, then this practice of the 10 parameters, which is the relative bodhicitta, becomes acquainted, employed, and unified with the ultimate bodhicitta. The ultimate bodhicitta is the instruction of all instructions. And this instruction is only realized through meditation. That's what it's talking about, the example given by the mountain-like meditation, and diamond-like meditation, and ocean-like meditation. Diamond-like unbreakable, yeah? Mountain-like immovable. Ocean-like unfathomable, meditative concentration. And so all the deity yoga practices are actually meant to be this, meant to be able to churn the butter. Your deity yoga should churn the butter. Deity yoga is just a milk. From the milk, you need to churn the butter of ultimate bodhicitta, which is seeing the emptiness of the deity. If you don't see the emptiness of the deity, you wouldn't see the emptiness of self. But if you're grasping to the deity, there's a lot of meditators, not a lot, but few meditators did a lot of visualization, very, very religiously. And their visualization so good, they could see the deities like everything, like even more clearer than you and me, but that he developed the grasping to the deity as truly existing, truly existing, and it defeats all the purposes, So that's why all the form, all the appearances in your everyday life are empty of true existence. So you have to try to see to the middle of the sky of the problem, and you have to see the middle of the sky of yourself. But if there is this other, beside this, if there is a fixed entity of I, and I have this problem, and this doesn't work, this is going. When you have these fixed conceptions, one is nowhere to going through any of the doors. It's completely locked. So, to get through those doors and to realize ultimate bodhicitta, one needs to then follow the remaining part of the text that we will cover hereafter. Thank you, everybody, for the listening of no listening. So, thank you. We will do the dedication of merits. So learn to do small meditation on emptiness, and then signlessness, and then wishlessness, because all these wantings are a real problem. Okay, now see. Om Bade Mere Mere Orga Da Deva Menzage Om Neze Me Ale Mere Rabe from the Ojana Bada Dezene Erenda Mahayana Buddhist Whatever Mere me obe begas leva the Mahayana Buddhist courage manju the azama rabada de la follow all the zambo aja de Ade mere mede selem bodhichitta teba era naya danza where has been bombe dengri freely without degeneration. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome.